It's game over, man. Actually, it is not game over. The game is just about to start.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to James Cameron.
I almost bailed on being a filmmaker. It's about sitting in that big dark room with all those other people you don't know, and something's gonna come up on that screen that's gonna take you somewhere. I'm the king of the world!
Welcome, everybody, to another episode, James Cameron 101. I'm your host, Eddie Green. Tonight, we have Ian Nathan, who is quite literally one of the top most James Cameron experts, I would say, out there. He's made a bunch of books, two of which, I think it's just two books. Both of them I have in the collection. I'm very excited that I was able to obtain Terminator Vault. That was sort of the holy grail, I guess you could say. I was able to track down a copy, get that back in the collection. But he authored Terminator Vault. He authored James Cameron, a retrospective, as well as Alien Vault, which is really why we're here tonight, because he is the writer, director of an incredible documentary called Aliens Expanded. Ian and I have done a bunch of things previously. His first appearance was back in 2019, I believe, on Terminator 101, where we talked all about Terminator Vault. Since then, we've stayed in communication, doing various streams and whatnot. Mr. Ian Nathan.
Thank you. Always a pleasure to be here with you, Eddie. And you always give me a great introduction. You know, you always big me up.
Let's get into the meat of this episode, which is a fun one, very loose. We're not getting into the making of or anything. It's just going to be a character tier list ranking. Have you ever done a tier list?
So you're doing like basically the characters from favorite to least favorite kind
top
of thing.
To bottom. But we're not ranking favorite to least favorite. We're ranking how well we think we would get along with that character in real life.
Right, I like it. Okay, so we're doing aliens.
That's what we're doing. I've picked 14 characters, so we're going to get 7 each. They're in a random order. I don't have them on the screen right now because I want you to determine who goes first without seeing the order of the character.
Okay.
So you or me.
Okay, you can go first because you know I've been living this world for a long time, so I'm going to give it over to you to go first.
All right, so I will pull up the list now, and then you'll see what were the 5 categories, I guess, that I've determined here. Can you see that? Is that pretty big, or should I do that?
Just okay, I can see it. Yep.
Cool. So at the top here, this is the top tier. No question, we're best friends with this person. We think that, you know, just instantly, we're best friends. The bottom one, let's go for a spacewalk. We have to, you know, kind of walk it out, talk, you know, maybe kind of figure out if we're going to jive with the person. The middle, that's always there's potential.
Okay.
Probably not. Right below that. And then the very bottom in the red, Queen Alien, they're yours. And we don't want anything to do with them. I will note Newt is not on here.
Okay.
Because we are basing it off of the character. So Newt has been excluded. But I'm sure we would all get along with Carrie Henn now. So I will go first here. And of course, obviously provide as, you know, whatever kind of, you know, commentary or thoughts you might have on the characters as we go along here.
Okay.
Kicking things off is, and I didn't know this, and thanks to Aliens Expanded, I was kind of made aware, but this is Al Matthews, who is no longer with us. Really quickly, though, because apparently he fell into obscurity after Aliens.
Yeah, he did. He lived in Britain, although he was American. So he was an actor based here. And if you watch the documentary, you'll know why they used Americans based in the UK. So he'd never sort of been a Hollywood actor in any sense. But after doing Aliens, he did some British TV, a few roles here and there, but really just sort of fell out of the game. I don't know quite why. Couldn't get the work or disillusioned with the work, moved to Europe and sort of fell into obscurity. It's quite a sad story, Al Matthews.
Yeah. But he did play one heck of a character. Kind of reminded me of, and I don't know if Paxton did this on purpose, you know, years later, but it kind of gave me the Edge of Tomorrow character That if you're
Oh yeah,
familiar.
I mean, Age of Tomorrow really references.
Yeah.
So referencing. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's like a top 5 Paxton role for me personally.
Yeah.
I love Paxton in Edge of Tomorrow, but um, uh, specifically talking about this character, the kind of really just, come on, move, like no,
Yeah. Yeah.
no fun really. Ultimately, with what we're seeing with this character, he is just all about, you know, following the commands.
He is the sergeant major, isn't it? The thing about Apone is that while he is no nonsense and he gives them hell, and he keeps them in line, they respect him and they kind of love him. He is important to the group in the way that they don't respect Gorman, that he's just been shot to the head of the list and he's a greenhorn. Apone, has been through battles with the Marines.
Right.
And they kind of give him a hard time, but I think they're very devoted to him. I think there's a real brotherhood, a real family around the Marines. And Apone is definitely part of that.
Yes. So, having said all of that, I don't feel comfortable putting him in no question best friends. I feel a little more comfortable sticking Apone in let's go for a spacewalk. I feel like if he was up for it, he would have to first be up for it. I feel like he's very by the numbers, work. If I was able to get some time to be like, hey, can we go for a walk real quick? Let's talk.
Share a cigar with him and
Right. So I'm gonna put him in. Let's go for a spacewalk. If this was your character, would you have put him there, or would you have put him somewhere else?
I would say there's potential, maybe, because I know what you mean. He's a bit intimidating. There's a couple of scenes where you do see him be a bit softer and laugh, and so he's got a heart underneath it. But yeah, he's quite intimidating. So it would be a kind of challenge.
Cool. So now that's sort of kind of what we're going for here. You get, speaking of Paxton, you get Paxton here on your turn. So what are you thinking?
Game over, man. Hudson's a pain in the ass. So he's great as a character, isn't he? He's just great for the movie. I mean, he is the great pressure release because he's the great realist in the team, which you've got to admire. But he would, if you were one of his fellow Marines, he would really get on your nerves a bit because he's constantly whining, constantly doing, and you'd be a bit like, can you just shut it? Bill Paxton is a god. I'd love Bill Paxton, but we're talking about Hudson. We're not talking about Bill Paxton. So I'm saying there's potential with Hudson. But I think, same way he winds Ripley up and he even winds Hicks up. He'll get on your nerves.
You will. Yeah, I mean, I knew the quotes going into Aliens, and I was very excited because I didn't know, like, I was very unfamiliar with who survives. Like, I know, I know Ripley survives, but except for her, I was very unfamiliar with who actually lives. So his death was quite a surprise for me, and very like, no.
Yeah.
I love the way he goes out, though. I love it. All right, so there we go. There's potential. I think I would have if he was my turn. I think I would have put him in. Let's go for a spacewalk as well. I don't get the best friends vibe, similar to what you were saying, how he is just kind of a pain in the ass, and so let's go for a spacewalk. Don't be a pain in the ass. Let's really kind of try to get to know one another. But next up is, and this was the best image I could find for this is, I believe, Spunkmeyer.
Okay.
This is of course the moment in the film where and I called it too. I was like, nope, because this is where he gets the like goo on his hand.
Yeah.
And,
wait, something here.
Yeah. Yep. So, personally, and I love that little anecdote that what's the actor?
Daniel Cash. Yeah.
Yes, that he gives about how that wasn't even his voice.
Yeah.
Which I think is, I don't know if it's, I mean, it's obvious to him. I didn't pick anything up.
He's only got a few lines, and they're quite sort of spaced out in the original film.
Right.
So it's hard to compare. It's the bit where he goes up to Bishop. Bishop's doing the autopsy on the face hugger.
Mm-hmm.
And he sort of goes, Bishop, hello, Bishop. And you can, if you listen, that's quite different to Hey, what's this? Cool. That stuff.
Right.
Wait, there's something here. He was quite funny, Daniel Cash. He's quite an amusing fella. He sort of tells funny stories.
I will say I'm just based off of the little bit of time that because he's not one of obviously there's some other characters that get more screen time, but just
Yeah.
the little bit that we get from him, I'm gonna put him in. There's potential with Hudson there. That's where I feel safe putting him. Do you agree, or do you think he's
I think you're right. I think we don't know huge amounts about him.
right?
He's going to low down the pecking order. But he seems a nice guy. He's there. He's one of the gang. He's not like Hudson. He's not getting in everyone's faces. So maybe there is potential with Spunkmeyer.
Yeah. You, based off of deciding who goes first here, you get Ripley.
Ripley. And Ripley's tough because Ripley is a hard character to get into. She's traumatized. She's kind of in a difficult place. We're talking Ripley and Aliens. She's not going to be an easy person to get along with, in a friendly way. She's really uptight pretty much the whole way through the film. I mean, she's great and heroic and she saves the day. But apart from Hicks, she doesn't necessarily get on with anyone. She just takes command. I'm going to say let's go for a spacewalk because I would love to win her respect because she is Ripley. But she's not one of the brilliant parts of that character, right from Alien and right the way through, is she's not necessarily likable, immediately likable. She's more complicated than that. She's got edges to her, and I think that makes her far more intriguing as a character, but not necessarily as a best friend territory.
I will say, because I'm not obviously even remotely familiar with Alien 3, I am familiar with how it opens, but I was fascinated by one of the guests that you had in the documentary that said that Alien 3 is potentially the most kind of well-developed version of Ripley that we've ever seen. Do you agree with that?
I think it's an argument because Alien 3 is a very dark film, and it's sort of about her coming to terms with the kind of her own fate, and it makes her character far more sort of internalized and fatalistic and gloomy and less immediately heroic than in the other first two films, especially. I mean, it's Charles de Lauzirika who had that opinion, who said, I really like the character in the third film. And certainly that's a good argument. I like her journey. I like her across the first two films. And I like the fact that across all four films she's in, you get very different Ripleys in each one, really contrasting. I think that's just credit to Sigourney Weaver for finding new ways of coming into this character and assessing where she is. And she talks about the fact that what's great about returning to a character is you bring the previous film with you, and it's there in your characterization. So every stage of her has always got the previous films in it. She's bringing them to those films. So yeah, I suppose I love her in the first film a lot because it's the development of that character and immersions. But I love Aliens, so I love the way she takes charge. I love her driving the APC, and just having to take control of the situation, because you always listen to Ripley. It's the one rule: listen to Ripley. She knows how to deal with this.
Right. Yeah, and doing these, because I've done a couple of these tier lists, and I do it all the same. Like, how well do we get along with these characters? And I've done it for some other Cameron films, and it's always, if there's a sequel to it. So I've done, I think T1 I've done. So the focus was stay in T1, try not to think about T2. But I did want to try to get your, even though we're not trying to go to Alien 3, if this was an Alien 3 tier list ranking, would she have gone up to best friends, or would she stay at let's go for a
she'd be like probably not. She's in a very bad place.
Probably not. Oh boy.
She's not happy in the third film. She's never been happy in any of these films, but it's not time for friendships going on in Alien 3.
Interesting. All right. I'm gonna, I don't know. It's just basing it off of, because we can't include Alien going into Aliens. I think I would have put her in best friends. She just gives that you know, especially knowing that Newt is this sort of newfound,
Yeah.
you know, if you watch the special edition version, she's this beacon of hope for her essentially, and you know, she's really welcoming, very protective. So yeah, I think either best friends or spacewalk is very
Yeah.
appropriate for Ripley. This one, I don't know if you're how well you can see it. This is Dietrich.
Oh, Dietrich. Yeah.
Yes. Again, a very interesting photo. Very kind of hard to find some of these photos of these characters to find a nice tight knit
Yeah.
to be
Yeah.
able to see it. But either way, Cynthia Scott. And I also try not to let the actor, you know, influence how I feel about this, because Cynthia Scott watching Aliens Expanded is just looks like a total sweetheart. Like a
Oh, I fell in love with Cynthia Scott. She was just so much fun. Always had a story. It was kind of a great talker.
yeah,
And just could talk about the whole thing, not just her part of it. She talked about the whole film and its meaning and its potential. She's a really smart lady and has brought
yeah.
a lot to the doc.
Yeah, and of course she is probably, I think if I had to pick my favorite death, even though we don't really see her die necessarily, I love the reveal of the
Yeah.
one of the aliens on the wall. I just thought that was so cool, and she obviously gets pulled up and uh just brilliant stuff. So based off of what is seen, again, another character that not a whole lot of time we get to spend with. I'm gonna put her in There's Potential just because I feel similar to Spunkmeyer.
Yeah.
I feel like that's you just kind of have to do that because you don't really know. So there is potential. She seems, and again, Cynthia Scott, sweetheart of a lady. There's potential. Next up is
So
who's
it's
that?
Drake.
Yes, sorry, that's Drake. Yep.
It's Drake. Now, Drake's, yeah, he's, you know, he and Vasquez have a whole thing going on.
Yeah.
But they are tight knit, and he's been in juvie. You know, he's got criminals' life behind him. So he's tough. He's a tough character. But there's something kind of likable about Drake. You know,
There is.
he's loyal. You can tell that he enjoys joking around. I mean, he holds down Hudson while Bishop does the knife trick. Yeah, he enjoys the fun of it. So I don't know about best friend because he's a bit dark in his way as well. I wouldn't want to get on his wrong side, but you know, let's go for a spacewalk. Definitely, me and Drake.
You bring up the knife thing that Lance Henriksen does to Bill Paxton,
Yeah.
and I had always heard, you know, stories about that wasn't planned, that was something that spontaneously happened. What fascinates me about that, and I guess this goes into how well of a professional Paxton is if that is indeed true, and if that is the like only time that entire thing ever happened, which you can speak on, he doesn't break character. He doesn't go, Lance, what are you doing, Lance? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's Bishop. What do you know what I mean? He's staying in character, even though something out of character is happening. Can you?
Yeah. I think you know. Again, obviously, you measure myth versus reality, and the kind of and the retelling of these stories. I think he knew that was part of the script that would happen. What he hadn't been expecting was they were basically filming a rehearsal. So I think he was expecting them to kind of just sort of quietly do it and then work it out how they were going to do it for the camera. And they just planned this kind of, you know, holding him down and doing. I mean, it's obviously sped up in the film. You can see it's sort of double cranked in the film. But yeah, he wasn't expecting that. But he knew that the scene was going to happen. So he was in character.
Interesting.
And yeah, and it's also, if you look at it, it's very edited. You know, it's close up, you know, hand, mid shots. It's not one bit, it's also different little bits. So how much of that sequence is Bill Paxton going, what?
Right.
And how much is kind of actually then doing the close-ups, you know, at a different time, you know, different setup. So I imagine that the scene was built from a lot of different pieces, but the mid shot where Drake holds him down and they get the knife out and they start it, that probably came as a bit of a shock to Mr. Paxton.
That's so cool. Yeah, that's always fascinated me, that Not that it was almost, this like prank, hey, let's
Yeah.
screw with Bill, but the fact that, even like you said, it is edited there's probably a bunch of different setups and all this stuff, and it's come and gone, the spontaneity of
Yeah.
the thing. But the fact that even like you said, just that shot where he doesn't break character, and to me, it's fascinating if that what we see is the actual moment it happened and he didn't know that it was happening and he stayed in character. To me, that's just another reason why Paxton's totally the man. But yeah, no, Drake, absolutely. Let's go for a spacewalk. I love how was it him or was it Jeanette that said nothing romantic?
Where's Mark Rolston? Yeah, Mark
Right.
Rolston, he played Drake. Yeah.
Nothing romantic.
Nothing romantic. Let's get rid of that now. Nothing romantic.
Yeah, I love that. Because I was getting that vibe. I was like, was there maybe some, back history, maybe some like fling they had, but apparently, according to him,
No,
nothing romantic.
They're just buddies.
I agree. Yeah, let's go for a spacewalk. Next up is Pharaoh.
Okay, yeah, the dropship pilot.
Yep. Who apparently had 2 different deaths that were filmed, and they in the theatrical cut.
And we've got a photo, I think, in the doc of the bit of her sort of being pulled back by the alien and sort of wrestling.
Yeah.
But actually, I think it's far more powerful if you watch the film. You just to sort of see her try and pull the gun, and then you sort of see the great hiss and the noise, and you see blood splatting over, controls of the dropship. Has a kind of more impactful sense. And I think a lot of these things are done for sort of pace. You can editing rhythms are really important, and Cameron's so good at them. And he will know that would have maybe if you'd done a longer death scene there and it'd been a bit gorier and you'd seen her getting pulled out, and it would have maybe just slowed it down at a point where you need to drop ship to crash. You need to get back to Ripley. You need to get back to, the drama is really happening. So I think it's quite very effective in the sense that both Spunkmeyer and Pharaoh's deaths are essentially off screen.
Right. And it leads into something that I love about this film, the just incredible filmmaking that is involved here, similar to Terminator 1 with and T2 has it as well with the projection screens that the actors are walking in front of, or in this case, running away from.
Yeah. Obviously it was in 1985 when they were shooting, came out in 86. Yeah, there aren't digital effects at that point. There's no digital shots in Aliens at all. So it's an optical, it's a process shot, they call it. So you literally act in front of a screen where another image is being projected from behind onto that screen. So it's one of the few shots you might argue look a little dated now, that you can sort of tell it's a screen maybe if you look closely, but you have to kind of go with those things. Any film from before probably 2000 has elements that you can say, well, does it stand up? But I think if the story is holding you, you don't care. You
absolutely don't care. And I think there's another brilliant thing, which I've only seen this film maybe once or twice previously and years before, just recently, a couple days ago. There's a cut where, we see what we're talking about, the screen, them running away. And then there's a cut to just the footage of the miniature that's rolling. And then it cuts back to the screen. So I think the cutting back to the screen really helps versus just lingering and letting the action happen.
Yeah.
So I think that's a brilliant piece of just editing in terms of, hey, let's, because obviously this could look pretty obvious that this is a screen, this is a set, they're running away from a screen. Let's cut to just a shot of the miniature kind of rolling toward them. But having said all that, I love that, again, short time, she's in charge. She again, somebody that I don't necessarily think I want to have as a best friend, just because she seems like she could be a little difficult to maybe talk with. And again, even let's go for a spacewalk might be difficult. So I'm going to say for her, there's potential. What's interesting is we're 7 characters in and not a single one we're deeming them as a best friend. And this is all random. Not a single one has ended up in Queen, They're Yours. So that's kind of interesting.
Oh, well, they're all beloved. We love them. So it's going to be hard. even well, we'll see who's in the list to come. But yeah, it's a mark, I think, of how great the writing was. That with even these characters like Pharaoh and Dietrich and Spunkmeyer, who have very little screen time, we're kind of bonding with them. We kind of love them, and we want, we know they're going to be alien fodder, but we really want them to survive, and we kind of feel their loss when they've gone.
Right. I will say though, I'm going to retroactively move Al. Sorry, I forget his character's name. What's his character's name?
Apone.
I'm going to move him. Having said what I just said about Farrah, I'm going to move him as well down here, because if she's intimidating, this dude is super intimidating.
Yeah.
So I'm going to move him down to there's potential. Moving on to, you have Mr. Michael Biehn.
Hicks.
Every
time we did like surveys and we sort of talked to the backers and stuff, and the question we would frequently ask is, Ripley aside, who is your favorite character? It was, by about 80-90%, it was always Hicks. Above Hudson, above everyone else. People love Hicks. There's just something cinematic about Hicks. He's like a Western hero. He's kind of cool, good looking, but restrained in the way that Hudson is all talk. And you just are with him the whole way. You got to love Hicks. But he's kind of, Michael Biehn is a very warm actor, I think. And there's just something very likable about how he performs his characters, even though, again, he doesn't say an awful lot. But when he takes charge, he has a certain kind of delicacy and a reluctance. Yeah, I want him as my best friend. I love Hicks. Yeah, he's just the coolest one of the lot. And it's little wonder Ripley starts to fall for him. He's got that about him, that he's very attractive to everybody. He's just the kind of the nicest guy in the film.
Yes. Yep. I totally 100% agree. Putting Michael Biehn aside, just focusing on Hicks, but I loved his tidbit of the smiling that he brought to the character, and how Cameron and Gail kind of noticed that and said that I'm blanking on the previous actor's name. That
James Remar was the guy who, for very complicated reasons, that didn't last very long in the shoot.
Right.
And they brought Biehn in at the last minute, 11th hour. But he owns that character. You can't think of anyone else as Hicks but Michael Biehn.
No, absolutely not. I love everyone just going, wait, one day we were filming with him and now all of a sudden this is Hicks now. Don't ask any questions. Just go on.
Okay.
I love that. That definitely made me laugh. But I agree 100%. Best friends, Michael Biehn, Hicks, great. Bishop. Okay. He was probably my most interesting character in this one because again, being unfamiliar, not remembering, what happens with this character, and having recently watched Alien, knowing what happened with that character, thinking, okay, at some point, something's going to happen here where he's also a villain, or he turns, or something happens, and he doesn't. And he is 100% good all the way through.
Yeah.
And that was actually, I think, even more effective than had he, midway through or 3/4 of the way through had a twist and, oh no, I'm actually against you. I think it was more of a brilliant idea to just, because we're all on edge with this character.
Yeah.
And the whole way through, nothing happens. He is on the team that we're on. And man, what I did find interesting is Lance Henriksen mentions it, but and maybe you agree, and maybe Lance does as well, but I took this as Cameron's way of saying, hey, look, I know I cast you as the Terminator originally and Arnold took it. Here's your chance to play the cyborg. Is that sort of what that was?
I think there is a certain degree of that. I mean, he's perfect casting no matter what you whatever that past was. Lance Henriksen's great as a synthetic. But I think there was a sense that Cameron felt he owed him.
Right.
After not being able to cast him as the Terminator. But I think he's canny. He would have thought, well, all the things I wanted from Lance as the Terminator do kind of work with Bishop. I mean, he's obviously less violent, but that kind of weirdness, that kind of detachment that he has, and if you hadn't seen the film before, you'd be guessing, is he all right? He's acting very strangely. And there are guys out there, guys and girls out there who analyze aliens and still aren't sure. They're saying, well, are we sure that he wasn't working for the company the whole way along? How do we know? We still take it as read. But I accept him as a good guy. I do. And he's he's very calming in the film, actually. I'd quite like him as a good friend, because he brings sort of a calmness to everything, a lovely kind of easy voice that makes him quite benign and approachable, even though he's a bit odd, a bit weird and not human. I think he's quite likable.
Right. Do we know, because I don't remember seeing, was that like the scar, like that little scar there? Is that actually something that Lance has on his face, or is that
I think it's just Lance's, because there's no reason given for why he has it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
For some reason, I don't remember that in Terminator, him as the lieutenant or the whatever he is, like the detective.
Yeah, he's the police officer, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. But having said all of that, and just basing it off of what we see in the film, I know you said others have speculated, and there might be even fan fiction of him having a turn or whatever. What we see in the film, I think it's safe to say he's also, for me at least, a best friend. He just, like you said, very calming in a very tense situation, and that great moment where he's like, I'll go. Like he doesn't want to, because he is aware.
Not stupid.
Yeah, right. He is aware of what could happen and how this could be the end of him, but he'll do it, and I love that. I really enjoyed that. So best friend, Bishop, all the way. Next up, who do we have here?
Gorman.
Yep.
And I have to say, William Hope was a great interview, and he's wonderful in the documentary. So this is casting no aspersions on William Hope, but obviously Gorman doesn't handle himself very well, certainly for the first 3/4 of the film. He's out of his depth. He doesn't know how to lead properly. He doesn't know how to relate to his soldiers. He, falls apart in the middle of a crisis. He's hard to get along with anyone. He's uptight. So I'm saying, probably not. I know he has a redemptive arc and he sort of comes through in the end. So it's probably not for 3/4 of the film. And then maybe there's potential towards the end, but it's too late by then.
Right. Yeah, I agree. That great moment where Ripley is, basically that's where she takes over, kind of thing. Because he's almost just falling apart, and how apparently military people have shown people this film saying this is what you don't do. I love that from the documentary. That was another great moment of just just wow, like he is kind of, why is he who he is? Why is he in this position, kind of thing? Because he's clearly, I don't think he's 100% capable.
Again, fans have speculated that was the company sending the company out there with a deliberately ineffectual leader, with an inexperienced leader, so it would go wrong. Was that a choice made by the bosses in the shadowy company in the background, that they implanted the situation where it was all going to go wrong because he was totally ineffectual.
Yep, 100%. So I agree. Don't give him to the queen. He's not that, but definitely.
No, he comes through in the end. He sort of finds something, but
right. Yeah. Next up, Stay Frosty, Rico Ross, who again, I mean, they're all great interviews. There's not a bad interview in there. He's just I loved any time it cut to him and him talking about his stories and what the experience was like for him, and like obviously the stunt involved here with his death being lit on fire, and crazy stunt. Obviously, I mean, I don't know exactly how that was accomplished without any kind of injury happening to the stunt guy. Was there any this is just a quick side note, was there any kind of attempt to get in touch with some of the stunt people, like maybe the stunt guy?
I mean, you could work out too. there wasn't. I mean, there was all sorts of people that sort of came out of the woodwork as we started going on, and you do have to draw a line because you simply don't have enough space.
Right.
So there were kind of cameramen and kind of all sorts of people have been on the crew, and there were stuntmen. But you kind of think, well, how much can I use of you? How much am I gonna put in that my actors and my director and all those other people are already giving me? So you just, again, you make a kind of practical choice. If I had if I was making a series, that was going to be 12 hours long and different episodes, and of course you'd want to populate it with about as many voices as you possibly could. But I have to kind of draw a line in the sand, and certain bits of it, departments weren't represented.
Gotcha. But yeah, that was fascinating stuff to watch, and I enjoyed his character. Sad to see him go. I feel pretty comfortable putting him in Let's Go for a Spacewalk.
Yeah, he's cool, isn't he?
He is.
Frosty.
He is.
Yeah, he's definitely one of the inner circle of the Marines that are liked. Yeah, and Phil is, he's the first one to go, and I think he really kind of sends the film into oh man, we're going to lose these guys. So you get quite desperate after he goes, and all hell breaks loose. That all these people you just getting to know and love, and suddenly they're dying on you. It's kind of pretty emotional.
It is, yeah. And I love the little tidbit he gave of your name's Frosty and you're gonna die by flame.
Die by flame.
Love it. I love that.
Cameronism.
You get the probably, I don't know if you like you said, you did polls and everyone loved Hicks, but I don't know, Vasquez.
Oh yeah,
popular.
Yeah, Hicks is the kind of cool one, but Vasquez is just iconic. It was Jeanette Goldstein's portrayal, and it's that brilliant ability that Cameron has of, portraying women as strong without making it a kind of the point. He's so good at it that it's just a story. It doesn't matter. You're not something like going, why is a woman in the military? You're just going, she's cool. My God, she's going to handle herself. You don't doubt her for a second. But she's, as a character, she's also edgy. And she gets on with Drake, but doesn't really get on with that many others. She's difficult. She's obviously a great soldier. And you're kind of with her as a character. It's very heroic. But I'm saying there's potential with Vasquez, but she's not an easy one. She doesn't laugh a lot.
Right. She really doesn't. It's all about just tell me where they are. It's all about the mission. But again, similar to what we were talking about with her and Drake, it seems like that's sort of the like one time where
they have the bond where they understand each other. But that's kind of almost like a unit within the unit. No one else really can get into that inner circle. Just the two of them.
Yeah. And I love because I didn't know how physically fit Jeanette was gonna look for this role, because I'd only ever seen, but like when she's doing the scene of her doing the pull-ups, I was like, wow, she really, because I'm, used to seeing what Jeanette looks like now. I'm like, wow, she's like, she has some muscle on her, some like Sarah Connor kind of T2.
Yeah, she is cut, man.
She's cut. So, but Vasquez is great again. Similar to maybe some Hicks fan fiction. A lot of fan fiction I think has been made of Vasquez. There's even someone you have in the documentary that
V. Castro. She's written a novel that does the backstory of Vasquez. So it just has inspired an awful lot. These characters. There's all sorts of threads that goes on outside of the film.
Yep. We're down to the last two, and I promise again, I put these when I assembled this, I did it in order of IMDb listing. And then when you put it in here, it randomizes it. It's funny to me that it randomized it and put these two guys last. That's funny to me. Because right now we're dealing with Lewin.
Lewin,
Paul Maxwell, who I think it's easy to say, let's throw him to the Queen. It's easy to say that. But, and you might have similar feelings here talking with Burke, but I don't necessarily think we should put him in Queen, They're Yours. Again, similar to the whole idea of, is this a anti-corporate film? Well, it's clearly not a pro-corporate film. This is a guy who probably has a bunch of bosses above him, and he's just doing what he feels like is right. Again, as the audience, we don't agree. They searched and they found nothing. Well, okay, that's good, but why are we doing what we're doing? Why are we colonizing? Why are we doing this?
Yeah.
It's easy to say, let's put him in, with the Queen. I'm not going to be that bad today. I'm going to say probably not. I'm going to spare him. But there is that urge to just want to say, Queen, They're Yours, because clearly this guy doesn't get Ripley, does not get Ripley.
Yeah. Yeah, he is one of the faces of the company. And there's a great sort of ambiguity around the plot, as in what the conspiracy, what's really going on, how much do the company know, how much is it Burke who may just be coming up, how much is Burke acting alone and being someone who's just sort of being an opportunist because he heard what Ripley said, so he puts the call through to LV-46, or how much is it a big conspiracy being run by the company to get this creature? So how involved in that is Van Leeuwen? Well, we just don't know. Is he a big cog or is he a little cog? He's quite smug, and certainly it doesn't come across as very feeling. But I'm with you. Maybe we don't know. He's ultimately just more than just a middle manager. And so probably not, but I won't condemn him to the Queen.
Are you condemning our last guy, Paul Reiser Burke? Does he get to say hello to the Queen, or what you thinking there?
No, Burke's great. Burke's really important to the film in terms of it driving the plot, but there's something about Paul Reiser's performance as the character that just make him a little bit human. He makes some very bad choices, and certainly he doesn't help anyone. And he may have been about to sacrifice Ripley and Newt so he could make a few bucks, which isn't good. But I still get the sense there's a human being there. And he has that kind of great bit where he shuts the door on Ripley and Newt as they flee to the infirmary. And he turns around and there's an alien there. And the bit of acting by Reiser is just terrific. It's genuine fear and terror on his face, and you'd feel for him in that moment. You do feel for him. You think, God, even you terrible Burke, you don't deserve this. So I would say probably not, because he's not very trustworthy. But I don't despise him. I think he's just a bit of a schemer. I don't think everything he says is a lie. I think he's just looking for an opportunity.
Interesting. So looking at this, I always ask whoever's doing these tiers with me at the end here, is this essentially kind of where you thought this was going to go? I'm surprised that there's a big majority of them that are in There's Potential, because again, similar to what you said about how well written it is and everything, I thought there would have been a little bit more, but when you stop and think and start breaking it down a little bit more, you realize maybe not everybody we would get along with, kind of thing,
I think it's that difference between characters you're watching from the audience and enjoying. So you think that Vasquez is great and she's cool, and Drake, but if you were there with them and beside them, it's going to be a different relationship.
Right.
So it's not necessarily the sense that you don't like them as characters. In fact, these characters are beloved, but at the same time, you think about people like Vasquez and you think, well, she's tricky. She's touchy, and she got a hairline trigger temper, and you think about Hudson. He winds everybody up all the time. He's intense. He doesn't shut up. If you were beside that, would that be as the same as you and the audience, just laughing and loving his lines and kind of going, yeah, drop your linen, it's all that stuff. But I think it shows you that when you stop and think about it, how interesting Cameron made the characters, that they aren't defined in clear ways. They don't have masses of screen time. Even Hicks, he doesn't have masses of screen time. Yet you get to know them really well, and you get to understand that they're tough and they're difficult. And it's something I think Cameron brought from Alien, the first film, where those characters aren't necessarily likable. They're not simple, easy people. They look like people who've been on a ship too long together. They're getting each other's nerves. And I think that's true of Aliens, that, this is a strong unit and they've got each other's back, but they're also really winding each other up. So, and it gives them a great humanity. It gives them a great kind of sense of texture. So that, it might surprise you what we've come up with. But it also, I think, is a compliment to how good these characters are, that we're not quite sure whether we get on with them or not. They're just that bit more human than maybe normal movie characters are.
Right. And specifically Burke, and just the only thing that would maybe sway me to put him in the Queen is the moment where he turns the screen off. That's that is the moment, I think, where it's sort of like, okay, dude, you were, you had chances, you had, and this is what you do. So I think if it was my turn on Burke, I think I would have put him in Queen, They're Yours, just because of that moment. Had that moment not happened, everything else leading up to it, as shady and kind of seedy as it was, he would have been, and probably not. Personally, I think after that moment where she's literally begging for help and he just turns the screen off, it's like, okay, Queen, where are you at? But that's there it is. That is our official tier list on how well we would get along with the main characters of Aliens. Again, there are some other characters that are in the film, specifically Newt, but again, I didn't feel like we should base it off of who she was in that film. So again, Carrie Henn, I think we would just get along with swimming.
Newt's interesting. I mean, Newt's not an easy character to get on. She's a bit out there. She's a bit edgy herself. So
and
we naturally warm to Newt. I don't know.
Kind of reclusive, right? Kind of reclusive, inward, very to herself. Which again, I'm very excited for the special edition, just to see how that is kind of fleshed out a little bit more. But there it is. So I'll make sure I save that. I like to save those, but there it is. That's the official tier list for Aliens. This is the third one I've done. I've done T1 and Titanic. So now we're up to Aliens. But so there we go. I hope you had fun doing this. Kind of
great fun. Yeah, absolutely.
Ian, I love talking to you always. You're one of my favorite people. I always say that, and I mean it. And I'm sad you're not going to be joining us for the fresh finals, the Rotten Tomatoes.
I didn't win. I was doing really well, and then I got beaten in the last couple of rounds. You threw me some curveballs at the end.
Yes, I was rooting for you. I wanted you to be a part of it, but I'm happy we got you on for that round. So everybody, thank you for watching, listening. However you check this out, I'll have Ian's information in the show notes. Please go support him. Go support Aliens Expanded. It's well worth whatever package that might be available when you're listening to this. If it's a digital, if it's a Blu-ray, it's well worth it. So thank you again for watching and listening. And like I always say, I'm just going to abbreviate it here. Go watch Aliens.